Matt Lautner coming to you live from Adel, Iowa, America. And this morning I'm being joined by a very special guest discussing a topic that is really important to me, the July 13th Trump assassination attempt by Thomas Crooks in Butler County, PA. My personal story would be I have a really good friend by the name of Cody Filgus that was in the audience from near Butler that witnessed the whole day, and me and him have visited about that here and there a little bit. But since the July 13th event, I've wanted to have an expert or whatever you want to call it on the show to discuss the what happened that day and what happened since, and happened to follow Todd Nolan or Chris Nolan, and he has been gracious enough to come on the MLC Big Show and discuss what he has researched. And Chris, can you just introduce yourself to the audience and tell them that you're from down under, mate?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm from I'm near Brisbane, Australia. I've been following US politics for a while now. I've sort of liked Trump since he started running, and I thought the assassination attempt was just, very suspicious. A lot of things seemed off straight away. So I've basically been researching that ever since, because I've done a few documentaries before about other topics like Ukraine and WikiLeaks and a few other things. So I had a little bit of experience with research and editing. And then when this happened, this was just my latest project. And then so basically ever since it happened, I've been working on it. I've put out a few videos already, and I'm working on a few more. Yeah, just trying to work out exactly what happened and who stuffed up where and who should be held accountable. And
you bet.
Yeah, I feel like I've only just scratched the surface. There's just so much stuff there.
You betcha. So I'll ask a couple of questions to begin with, and then we can cover or broach any topics which you would like to cover as well. But just right off the bat, it's a pretty simple question. How in the fuck does a lone gunman get 150 yards from the president from an elevated position with a long rifle, and also having people around the building and law enforcement around the building? How does that man, that 19-year-old or 20-year-old, or I can't even remember how old he is, how does he get 150 yards, which is only an 8-iron for my dumbass playing golf? How do you get that close to President Trump and not have Trump rushed off stage? I mean, this is just maybe your opinion more than anything, but how did we get here?
That is the question. That's what I've been wondering ever since. It doesn't make a lot of sense at all. It's either the most, massive incompetence or possibly something more sinister. It's either everybody stuffed up all over the place, made mistakes all over the place, that it's just hard to believe that professionals could make all these mistakes one after another in all different ways. Or look, I can't prove this, but there's a possibility that someone on the inside probably didn't like Trump, and they either turned a blind eye, or they sort of carved out a sort of a blind spot for Crooks to take that position there. But in short, either massive incompetence or possibly some kind of inside job, possibly. I still haven't decided yet. I go back and forth all the time, but that is the question, because it shouldn't have happened. The bad part
about it is in the summer months there wasn't much going on, and maybe you would have been putting out some videos on YouTube or Twitter, and Dan Bongino would have been my personal source of daily podcasts to cover the event, because he's a former Secret Service agent and just has a lot of insider knowledge. Now that we're closer to the election, over the last 30 or 40 days, it seems like almost everyone has shut off coverage about it. I just think it's really important to review as we get ready to elect a new president here in 2 weeks, and hopefully we can have an honest and fair election. But I mean, just to review a couple things for those that might not pay extra close attention like you and possibly me back over the summer, this was local law enforcement and not Secret Services positions to hold and to secure Why in the hell wouldn't Secret Service be in charge of securing those positions so close to the stage?
Yeah, that's another great question. The whole building should have been under the Secret Service secure perimeter. For whatever reason, they just had the fence line and they had the people inside that the Secret Service were taken care of, and then it seems they delegated the responsibility to that building to the local police, state police, and ESU snipers, which, yeah, they definitely shouldn't have done because, you know, people could walk all around that building right up to the fence and no one was screened. They could walk up with weapons. Crooks didn't even have to go on the roof. He could have just walked up to the fence with a gun and just taken a shot at Trump from where those people were there. So definitely Secret Service should have taken that. And there's a lot of blame to go around. So it was their fault for not, that should have been within the secure perimeter. But then when they delegated it to the locals and the ESU, I think they all dropped the ball as well. Like, we can say that the Secret Service should have done it themselves and they shouldn't have delegated it. But considering it was delegated to the locals, they have a lot to answer for too, because they were supposed to, Secret Service did ask them to look after that building and they obviously didn't. And there's a lot of finger pointing going on between both of the agencies, Secret Service and locals. And basically they both blame each other, and in a way they're both right, because they both sort of screwed up.
Extreme negligence on both sides, but just as a point of record, the Secret Service was supposed to pick up a walkie-talkie or some sort of way to communicate with the locals, and they failed to do so on the morning of the rally, which allowed them not to know whenever a local law enforcement confronted crooks on the roof 30 or 20 seconds before the shooting. And it would have taken, I mean, they proved it when the shots rang out, that it only takes a couple of seconds to cover the president and then possibly get him off the stage. But there supposedly was no way to communicate that information between the local law enforcement as they confronted crooks back to the Secret Service to get Trump the fuck off the stage. I mean, it's just compounded negligence, as Dan Bongino says. If you leave your kid in a hot car on a summer day and he passes away, that's negligence, and that's criminal negligence. So, I mean, it's unfortunate we're not getting any sort of immediate accountability other than Director Cheadle resigning as the Secret Service Director. But hopefully, you know that if Camel Toe gets in there, we're not going to get any sort of accountability. But if Trump gets in there, hopefully some heads can roll. But
because I remember.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because remember Trump had that interview with, was it Jesse Waters, where he said, look, they should have known, people knew about it, why wasn't he stopped? So I think Trump, hopefully, he should be pretty concerned about it. So hopefully if he wins, he can really follow this up, because it does seem like they're letting it drop off the radar. And you're right about the convoluted chain of command, and the Secret Service didn't pick up the walkie-talkies for direct communication, and then so they've got these two different command posts. So the local police, they see someone on the roof, running along the roof 3 minutes before it happens, and it sort of has to go to their Butler Command Center, and then he has to call by a cell phone, where they have sort of dodgy cell phone service. He has to call the Secret Service command post and pass it on that way. And then I think there's another link in the chain there. Even when the Secret Service command post knows, it still takes a few more steps before it gets to the snipers and the detail surrounding Trump that, you know, they did work very quickly. As you said, after the shot, they came on straight away, but it took so many different steps to get there, which is, probably one of the big, one of many massive failures. And the incompetence is so huge that people need to be held accountable for it. They all need to be fired at least. You know, people probably should be going to jail for it. Because I remember I saw an interview with Corey Comparator's family, his wife and their daughters, and I think one of his daughters even said, we hold the security services responsible. They have blood on their hands and they want to push for the truth, and they deserve the truth. We all deserve the truth, and it's a shame that it's getting dropped off the they're not talking about it very much. It seems like a bit of a cover-up. There's a few investigations in the government going on, but it just seems like they're not really getting to the bottom of it. So we just have to keep pushing, and hopefully Trump gets in there and he helps.
Sure.
Try and keep it an important subject.
So just to review a couple more facts, the Secret Service is a $4 billion a year agency, and doesn't have to be a political matter, but it kind of is that they're more worried about being DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and hiring fat white girls to protect Trump rather than lean former military that you might expect would be better at personal security. Just like I can't bake a very good cake, fat white girls can't protect a president very good that are only 5'3" whenever the damn president's over 6 foot tall. But I mean, it is what it is. But to have a $4 billion a year agency worried more about DEI than buying a drone. I mean, they had drones. They were offered drones from the local law enforcement to create overwatch to see if anybody was on the roof or other roofs in the area. Obviously, there's been a lot of conversation about the huge water tower in the background of the site. No people up there to create overwatch. I would shout out two congressmen as kind of also awesome sources of information. Representative Eli Crane of Arizona and Representative Corey Mills of Florida. Kind of the badasses in terms of getting some of that pertinent information out, and some of the strategic, because they were former military, and I believe Corey Mills is former sniper that worked for the State Department around the world. Anyways, I don't know. It's just all a convenient set of incompetence, and kind of adding it all up, it does seem like there needs to be some criminal accountability for what the frick happened that day. But I guess, is there anything else that you'd like to review as we, try and create a narrative for people that maybe don't pay as close attention to what happened a couple months back?
Maybe just a quick couple of points that I think some of the more egregious failures was that the Secret Service, they were told, because the ESU snipers, they did, they photographed Crooks about an hour beforehand, and then he sort of left, and then he came back again with the rangefinder, and then they told Secret Service, and Secret Service knew about a suspicious person with the rangefinder at 4:45, so that's about 40-odd minutes before the shooting, and maybe 15, 20 minutes before Trump went on stage. So they knew that the police and the locals were looking for someone suspicious with the rangefinder, which is obviously, to determine how far away Trump is to shoot at him. And they still sent him on stage anyway, which is just outrageous. Surely, Trump I think he was supposed to start at 5, so he's already about an hour late. Surely he could wait another 10, 15, 30 minutes, as long as it takes, until this person was found and they knew what was going on. But they just sent him out there anyway and hoped for the best. And then on top of that, once he was on the stage at 6:08, I think 6:09 is when the time it was passed on, Secret Service knew someone was on the roof. So they knew there's a suspicious person with a rangefinder, and then there's a person who's not police. They know it's not police. There were some reports about confusion about that, but they knew it wasn't police or law enforcement. It was most likely this person with a rangefinder is now on the roof. They knew this at 6:09. They left Trump on stage for another 2 minutes before he gets shot. And then on one other thing, and this is the one I'm just adding because I'm working on a documentary sort of covering a lot of this at the moment, and I think I'm onto a bit of a scoop here because I haven't heard many people talk about it, because Greg Nickel, one of the ESU snipers that was in the AGR building just behind, on the two-story building just behind Crooks, and it's amazing that they sort of couldn't look out their windows and see him. He was radioing his commander, the Butler commander, Butler County Commander Edward Lenz. He was in the Butler County Command Center. They were radioing back and forth to each other. As Nickel was saying, the updates, now he's back with the rangefinder. Then he came back with the third time with the backpack, which I think had the gun in it. And at 6:07, Edward Lenz said to him, because I think he started sending police over at that point, and you can sort of see them, I think the police that were surrounding the building, I think Lenz would have sort of sent a bunch of them over there, because they weren't there at the start, which they should have been, I think. But as he was sending them over, at 6:07, he radioed Nickel and said, I think I got the quote here, he goes, "They should have a fairly good perimeter. If you get another visual, let me know." So that's at 6:07. 1 minute later, this same Edward Lenz that just said that to Nickel, he gets informed someone is on the roof. And while he does tell the Secret Service, and I have to double check this because I'm getting all the documents, trying to double check this because it's almost hard to believe. It seems like he never calls back that sniper. Edward Nickel to say, hey, by the way, you know the guy we just spoke about a minute ago that you're looking for? He's on the roof right next to you. He never, unless I've missed it or unless that hasn't been made public, it seems like he never let Nickel know. So for another 3 minutes, he never got back to his sniper to update him. The guy you're looking for, he's on the roof. Have a look. And he knows if Nickel is his sniper. Edward Lenz is the commander of this person. So he knows there's someone on the roof. He's been speaking back and forth multiple times on radio to Nickel about it. He gets updated. Someone's on the roof, and he doesn't let him know. Nickel was right there, and his partner as well. Mirko is also in the window. It's just, I just find it hard to believe.
There were supposed to be 3 people in that second story room with a window open to create a little bit of overwatch, and I believe the story goes that one of them went down to the outside area to look for crooks, and I believe that leaves the gentleman that you referred to as the person in there, but he left the post also, supposedly. I don't know. Anyways, I mean, my particular detail isn't quite as crystal clear as yours, but it's just, once again, a compounded series of events that just happen to be negligent, and when you add it all up, there has to be some, I mean, just the fact that this guy is 20 years old. What 20-year-old doesn't have any social media? Supposedly this kid didn't have any social media. How does a lone gunman know where to be and when to be there? I mean, it's just obviously.
Yeah. And on that point, because I've been reviewing where all the snipers were positioned. So you had the 2 Secret Service sniper teams that were behind Trump. You had one of them that was facing to the south, one of them was facing to the north in the direction of this AGR building. But the one that was facing to the north had that tree in the way. And so the whole time Crooks ran along the roof and got in position, he just happened to be lucky enough to have this tree in planning that would block him the entire time. And eventually the south-facing snipers, they turned around and they're the ones that took the kill shot. But it's all, and I haven't gone through all the documents, but I think someone on the Secret Service was asked about this. It's like, did you know about this tree in the way? And they said something like, oh yeah, but the other snipers could probably see. But the other snipers were facing the other direction until like 1 minute beforehand. Sure. And these ESU snipers that probably should have seen him, technically they were facing out in another direction. So basically that spot that Crooks was in was basically the one blind spot that wasn't covered by snipers. And he just forced, and it could be a coincidence, you know, I don't know. But he was just very fortunate to hit the one part of the roof. Yeah, it's almost like someone knew in planning that this was the blind spot, and somehow maybe Crooks knew about it. I'm not sure. I don't have any proof of that. But it's definitely worth investigating. There's a lot of very, very interesting, suspicious facts about this case, and I keep finding more and more the more I dig. So hopefully we keep at it. And then so I appreciate you having me on to talk about it.
In the closing seconds before the shots were fired, local law enforcement did confront Crooks on the roof, and he pointed the long gun at the officer that was boosted up there by another officer. And hopefully, I mean, a little bit of luck here. Maybe that confrontation made him rush his shot or got his whole heartbeat rocking pretty fast. And just by a millimeter, we almost witnessed a former president's head become a tomato can in high-definition TV. Luckily, it only grazed his ears, but I don't know. It's hard to think about. Or it's tough to imagine where we would be at as a country or a world right now if Trump had been assassinated on high-definition TV back in the middle of July.
Yeah, and as you said, we were so close to that happening. If he didn't turn his head at that exact same moment with that chart that he says, his miracle chart that he loves, that saved his life, it really did, you know, because he was looking straight ahead. If he stayed looking straight ahead, we would have seen his head explode. And as you said, who knows where the country and the world would be. So luckily he turned his head at the right moment. But still, people need to be held accountable for what almost happened if it wasn't for incredible luck on Trump's part. So I think we're all very lucky that, he turned his head, and things could be just so much worse.
Probably
wish him all the best.
Go ahead. There's probably dozens of points or topics we could review, but I did want to keep it somewhat short and bite-sized in terms of time. But I do appreciate you taking the time to review some of these, most important points with me, and hopefully the podcast will get a lot of review by those that maybe don't follow as close attention as you do. We're electing a president 2 weeks from tomorrow, boys and girls. So my call to action to everyone listening, get off your ass. Get registered to vote. Get 10 of your friends registered to vote, because everyone in the world, including Chris Nolan from Australia, is hoping that Trump gets in there to create a little bit of freaking stability in the world. Joe Biden has fucked up this country and this world pretty bad, and I'm guaranteeing you, anybody that's listening, that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz will take us further down the communism road. So please, I'm begging you, get yourself registered, get your friends and family registered, get anyone that you know registered, and vote like this is the last election, because it very well might be. And, it sounds a little bit performatory for me to say all that, but gosh darn. There's just people in the middle that just don't pay very much attention. They're too comfortable in their day-to-day lives, and they need to be challenged, because college football and weekend tailgates aren't as important as getting Donald Trump and other people from the Republican side back in power. So we can get some accountability for this, but then you think about all the craziness of the last few years, and America is a wild place right now, and I've been mentioning a few of the crazy things that happened over the last few podcasts, and I thought to myself, before I came on, I need to make sure that I mention immigration. Tens of millions of illegal and undocumented immigrants streaming across their southern border. It's not a big deal, according to Biden and Harris. Meanwhile, sending billions of dollars to the eastern border of Ukraine to keep Russia from coming after Ukraine. I don't know. We have an inverted and distorted sense of reality and truth in America right now, and hopefully we can bring some sanity back to the White House. So
yeah, it does seem that Trump's message of America first does rub some people the wrong way that do want to spend money to Ukraine and all these kind of things. So that's why, people probably definitely have to get out to vote to make it. As I think Trump said, you got to make it too big to rig. You need a landslide so they can't possibly take it from him. And just so quickly mention a lot of the research that I'm doing about this stuff. I'm about to put it in a documentary that I'm about to release. So if people want to watch that, I should be finished within a week. So if people want to see that,
tell the audience your channels that they can find you online so they can check out your work. And I do appreciate you coming on, so I dang sure want you to mention that part of it.
Yeah, thank you very much. On X, I'm at Chris Todd Nolan, Nolan, and I'm also on YouTube, and my channel is Watchdog Media. So I've already got a few videos about it already, but this next one I'm working on, it's about a 90-minute documentary just covering heaps of information. So if people are interested in all the nitty-gritty of this, going through the timeline and all the different footage that's sort of out there, keep an eye on that.
You betcha. So about 100 episodes ago, I did do a podcast with a former football star from Sheridan, Iowa, now living in Okinawa, Japan. So you're actually my second Eastern Hemisphere. Maybe that's not the right word for it. But totally different time zones, and it's around 6 a.m. here where I'm at. What time is it in Australia right now, Chris?
Yeah, it's about 6 p.m. Sun's just about to go down. Sunset.
You betcha. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to join us and tell the story to my audience. I hope you get a lot of positive feedback and hopefully some follows and whatever on your social media. You're doing darn good work. Just as a point of record, I'm not trying to give anyone credit other than you, but Dan Bongino, there is a gentleman by the name of Chris Martinson that's not quite as good as you, but kind of does the same thing. People just need to search out this information and they need to study it a little bit and get out of their comfortable lives, because this is pretty important shit. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed your coverage of it over the summer. And the more you know, I mean, it's just a matter of you cannot tune into mainstream media, CBS, NBC, all of them to get this sort of information. You have to go and seek it out on YouTube and X, and it's just too bad that that's where we're at as a world right now.
Yeah, the mainstream media is trying to bury it already. But yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to come on, and it was nice talking to you. And yeah, thanks again.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much.
See ya. Bye, mate.